everyone. Hi, and my name is Leanne, and I'm part of the Vancouver Startup Week team. I'd like to take a moment to acknowledge that we're grateful to be virtually gathered on Indigenous land, regardless of where you're joining us from. At my home here in Vancouver, I'm grateful to be on the traditional, ancestral, and unceded territory of the Musqueam, Tsleil-Waututh, and Squamish peoples. I'm privileged to live, work, and play on these lands. First off, I want to thank you for joining us for VSW 2021 and welcome to this session, Supercharging Brand Awareness Through Social Media, hosted by HubSpot for Startups. This session is part of the VSW Founder Track and is proudly supported by Sage Accounting. Sage knows that you didn't start up your business to become an accountant. Sorry to any accountants in our attendance right now. Sage Accounting keeps your business organized and running smoothly. Track your cash flow, send out invoices, and get paid quickly. Visit the Sage Accounting booth to access free guides and templates for starting your business finances right away and get access to an exclusive VSW discount from them as well. I also want to take a moment to thank our sponsor, HubSpot for Startups, for being such a great event partner and also a sponsor. VSW could not happen without the continuous support of our community sponsors. During the session, please be sure to post your questions for our speakers in the Q&A portion of the Whova platform. Upvote your questions so we can ensure that we ask them at the end. I'll now pass the microphone over to Kelsey and we'll begin. Over to you, Kelsey.
Thank you so much. Also, love the introduction and the acknowledgement of the Indigenous lands that we are on. I think that is incredibly important and also something that makes VSW distinctive in the way that we approach community building. And I just want to check with everybody. Hopefully everybody has seen the full screen image. I just did a screen share, so I want to make sure I'm on the right one. So do let me know. But I'm excited to be able to join you today and tell you a little bit more about how you can use social media and ads to be able to drive brand awareness and be able to grow your company. And I'm going to start by giving you just a little bit of context around the program that is sponsoring VSW and part of what I do outside of this. So this is presented by HubSpot for Startups. We are a integrated tool set. So we have a free CRM and a sales, marketing, service, ops, and CMS hub built on top of our CRM, in addition to 600 integrations. So what this really means is that this is your one-stop shop to be able to run your business. And if you're trying to think about, what HubSpot is in a nutshell, I would take the core pieces of Salesforce, Marketo, Calendly, Zendesk, MailChimp, Hootsuite, roll them all into one, add a few things. That's essentially what we do. And as part of this program, you and other founders are eligible for up to 90% off our software, depending on what partner you are affiliated with. We have many partners across Canada, and many of them that are sponsors here today. So feel free to go on and learn a little bit more at hubspot.com/startups. And the other piece of this program is that we deliver education and resources, because tools are great, but if you don't have the knowledge and skills to implement them to actually drive business growth and revenue, then it's not so helpful. All right, we already know the title. I've told you a little bit about HubSpot. I'll tell you a very brief bit about me, although I know you're not here to hear about my personal history. However, I started my career working in educational nonprofits, and I essentially launched a different startup program each year. And after I did that for a few years, I decided to get my MBA, and I started working for a founder who had been around for 30 years and was really looking to scale internationally. And I helped her be able to set up systems where, whether it was her sales, her marketing, and her ops, to be able to focus on her efforts on the things that were going to be most impactful for her, so she could kind of move from working on, for her business to working on her business. And then we were able to scale into a multinational organization. After that, I've ran sales teams. I opened up my own business back in Boston, a chain of plant-based juice bar cafes. And then when I sold that, I decided to come on to HubSpot for Startups, where I get to meet with awesome entrepreneurs like you and be able to share some of the lessons that I have learned along the way. All right, so what is it that we are talking about today? Let's dive right into our agenda. We're going to be talking a little bit about how do you actually build your content for brand awareness, talk about some best practices around that. How do you also choose the right channels to put it on? There are a lot of options out there for different audiences. Then how do you actually schedule that, promote it, and decide whether or not you're successful? So let's delve on in because we have a lot to go through. So the first thing that I want to say is that it's really important for you to have a goal for your social media and know what it is that you're trying to achieve. It's not just enough to set up channels and think that followers are, is going to result in something. You don't know that they're going to convert into customers. And you got to think about what type of followers are you trying to attract and why. Now, we're focusing this in on brand awareness, and brand awareness is so important because this measures how familiar your target audience is with your brand, and are they going to recognize it? And part of why brand awareness is so important is because customers rely on extensive research and others' opinions before they make a purchase. Therefore, brand trust is everything. And once that consumer bonds to your brand, they're more likely to make repeat purchases without giving it a whole lot of forethought. And you're also able to give your brand more of a personality and an outlet, which enables you to be sincere, to receive feedback, to be able to tell a story. This is how people bond with your brand. And these are all the ways that we as humans bond with one another. Plus, brand awareness also creates associations. When you've had a cut, I bet you got a Band-Aid. Maybe you had a pressing question, you Googled it. Maybe you need to make a few copies and you went to Xerox it. When your brand awareness is really high, you can even go so far as to associate actions and products with particular brands. And before you know it, something as simple as getting a paper cut is going to do the marketing for you. Lastly, around brand awareness, when you enhance your brand awareness, you build brand equity. And your brand's value is determined by consumer experiences and their overall perception of the brand. When the perception is positive and you've built positive brand equity, you are able to ask for higher prices. You're able to generate a higher stock price once you IPO, and you're able to expand your business into different product and service lines and be able to have greater social impact. So once a consumer is aware of your brand and they start to recognize it without assistance and they seek you out to make a purchase, they begin to prefer it over other similar brands and establish a loyalty that not only spurs other purchases, but also inspires them to recommend you to family and friends. All right, well, I don't think it's too hard to pitch to you why it is important, but let me give you a little context to be thinking about and to temper your expectations, because brand awareness does not happen overnight. It's not going to happen from a single advertisement or a marketing campaign. It is a series of multiple simultaneous efforts that extend beyond just trying to get paying customers. And you want to be able to think that if you expect to raise awareness of your brands by just running a few products on, ads on Facebook, you're not going to get very far. So not only will the consumer be focused on the products, not your brand, so different things, brand awareness versus trying to get customers, but the ad is going to lack impact beyond just getting a simple sale. So here are some ways that we can establish a strong brand awareness foundation and be able to have a lasting impact with your audience. All right, first tip, be a person, not a company. When you get to know a new friend, what do you like to discover about them? I like to know their hobbies, their passions, their likes, their dislikes, and I also pay attention to how they speak, what they like to talk about, and what stuff gets them excited. These are the traits that your brand should determine and promote about itself. To leave an impact on your audience, you have to define yourself as more than a company that sells stuff. So think about, how is it that you actually want to define yourself? And whether you're, introverted or extroverted, outgoing or quiet, all humans benefit from social contact and spending time with one another. This last year has made that more apparent than others. And it's how we stay connected, how we learn new things, and how we become known by others. And the same thing goes for your brand. If you attempt to connect with others only when you're trying to make a sale, you won't be known as anything beyond a business with just a singular intention. And think about, those friends that you've had where they only want that one thing for you. They're always trying to sign you up for, the next demo or whatever. When you only know them for one thing, they stopped holding as much value in your life. So you've really got to be social. Get online, be asking questions, comment on posts, retweet, share content that you like. Treat your social accounts as if you were a person trying to make friends, not a business trying to make money. Because over 50% of brand reputation comes from online social ability. So being social leads to a lot greater awareness than just simply being known. And this one shouldn't come as a surprise to you. Storytelling is an incredibly powerful marketing tactic because it gives something real for your audiences to be able to latch onto. You want to be able to create a narrative around your brand that humanizes it, that gives it depth, and that you can market alongside your products or your services. And you might be wondering, well, what should this narrative be about? Anything, as long as it's true. It could be the narrative of your founder, the tale of how your business had its first product idea, or maybe it's like a little engine that could story of how your business made it big in this huge marketplace. People like hearing stories, and the authenticity is really impactful, and it can lead to a big boost in your brand awareness. You also want to make sure that you make sharing easy. So word of mouth is the most effective way to establish trust amongst your customers. So if someone sees that a friend or family member is recommending a product or service, they're going to take notice. But make it easy when you post to share, to make it into gifts, to make it into whatever they want to be able to share with their audience. And lastly, top tip, make sure that you have brand consistency. I put Tiffany's up here because regardless if their name was on the box, that's Tiffany Blue, because they have generated that consistent brand awareness. So think about, how do you make sure that your colors, your font, your messaging, your tone is consistent across your brand so that it can be recognized? Now, a lot of people want to achieve virality, and in order to do that, this is when you create a video or visual content that resonates with your target audience, and the content is shared to the point that it spreads like wildfire and goes viral. And when a marketing campaign goes viral, a company's sales, engagement, brand awareness can increase dramatically. This is essentially, though, hoping for a hit single. So many marketers want this to happen. It rarely happens in this kind of one-hit wonder style. There's no guaranteed formula. However, if you think about some of your favorite viral marketing campaigns, you're going to notice some common features, which I think are worth talking about today. The first feature is that it appeals to your target audience. So a successful campaign thinks about that target audience and what's going to resonate with them. You want to make them feel so strongly about your content that they decide to share it with their family, their friends, their followers. And you need to make sure that to achieve this, you want to think about, who do you actually want to connect with? What content would they feel passionate about? What are their hopes, their dreams, their values, and why should they care about your campaign? And what can you do to make them want to share your content on their social network? You also want to be sure that you have a strong visual strategy. This guides potential customers to understand your brand through the use of images. And that campaign needs to be able to tell a story. And it's best with using visual elements that are going to resonate with your audience. Your visual strategy, however, needs to be compatible with your brand and your target audience. It should be interesting, informative, and hold some element of intrigue or perhaps humor or hope. One of the ones that I've always enjoyed is Dos Equis, the most interesting man in the world. You know that this is a strong visual strategy. You know who they're trying to appeal to. You know the message that they're trying to get across. And this is essentially what we're trying to achieve. Your favorite viral marketing campaigns are something that is set apart from others. This is one that I think we probably all remember, is the ALS Ice Bucket Challenge. Not really complicated, but everybody got excited. It was creative, it was unique. People wanted to, it gave people a reason to share, and things don't go viral unless you have a really innovative idea behind them. It's something that's going to grab people's attention. This is a little bit dated, but have you ever seen the Dove Real Beauty campaign? I think that this is a great example of a viral campaign that appealed to so many because it had emotional appeal. It calls attention to unrealistic beauty standards that are perpetuated by the industry and by ourselves, and it encourages us to feel good in the skin that we are in. This is a really unique message amongst all the noise of, trying to make women and people in general feel like they are not enough in order to sell products. And this campaign went viral because it made their audience feel something. And as I said before, make sure that it's easy to share and that it's easy to promote. You don't need huge sums of money to provide successful photo or video content. You just need to make sure that it's shared over and over again. So that means that you want to share it in as many places and as many ways as possible. And you want to enable sharing, embedding, and downloading capabilities on all of your content. So viewers can tag their parents or message their friends on Instagram or download your video and easily turn it into a memorable GIF. You can create calls to action or elements that encourage people to share it with their friends. Lastly, make sure that it's published at the right time. If you are sending something out at Saturday at 8 p.m. when people are likely out, having dinner, doing things, it might be a great campaign that falls totally flat. Don't launch it on Super Bowl Sunday unless you are somebody who has the marketing dollars to be able to have a Super Bowl ad. You have to think about the timing and the cadence, not just when you're ready, but when your audience is going to be ready. Now we're going to talk a little bit about influencers. So influencer marketing employs leading niche content creators to be able to improve brand awareness, to increase traffic, and drive your brand's message to your target audience. And it works because it uses tactics like word of mouth and social proof, which are critical aspects of a successful marketing strategy. Because customers trust their peers, their friends, and the people that they admire more than they trust the companies that are selling these products and services. 80% of marketers say influencer marketing is effective, and 89% say that it works just as well, if not better, than other marketing channels. 71% of marketers also say that the quality of customer and traffic from influencer marketing is better than other sources. I would say in 2021, 2022, keep an eye out for influencer marketing, specifically on YouTube, TikTok, Snapchat, and Pinterest, especially if your audience leads a little bit more towards Gen Z. Now, how do you actually find influencers? You can review articles related to various topics in your field, be able to scan industry-specific sites and web pages, figure out who's writing them or who's providing thought leadership. On social media, you can search for keywords and phrases, specific users, hashtags, and tagged audiences on specific posts. Brands and social users, they may have tagged somebody who's an influencer that you could potentially work with that's on one of those posts. And don't forget to look in the comment section of high traffic posts related to your industry or your type of work. You can also use referrals. Use your current network and to be able to obtain referrals. Look if anybody in your network has worked with influencers in the past, and also dig into the blogs. See who's actually authoring the blogs. What sources are they citing? Because these could likely be your influencers. Or see who's on panels or product roundups. They might feature dozens of influencers that you can tap into. But if none of those work for you and you want to do something else, you can also check out popular options like BuzzStream or BuzzSumo, which are going to help connect you with your influencer audience. Okay, Keeping on going. Hopefully you're still with me. Let's talk a little bit about choosing your channels. There's so much out there. Who is it aimed towards, and how do you engage on these channels? The landscape is huge. It's gotten even bigger since I put this slide up here. We've added a lot of new things. We've added Clubhouse, we've added Snapchat. So let's delve into a little bit of our top social channels. Now, 90% of businesses cite Instagram as the most important channel for influencer marketing. And it can also help you grow your brand awareness and introduce new products. 70% of Instagram users have spent time searching for a brand on this platform. Now, there's some tips in how to actually use Instagram effectively. You want to make sure that you consider using your logo or another familiar image as your main image. You want your Instagram profile pictures to be automatically cropped into a circle, so leave room on the corners of your image. You also, in your bio, you have 150 characters max. It is not indexed for your keywords, so don't worry about your keywords, about your hashtags. This is where you're going to give a brief overview of your company, throw your URL in there because that part is linked, and give your audience a hint of your personality. Be able to encourage users to take specific actions, or to use a certain hashtag, or to visit your website. Your bio is the only place where you can feature a clickable URL and drive traffic to an external site. Again, you want to make sure, as we said, consistent colors and filters, make it recognizable, make it high quality as best you can. There's so many great products out there to help you take great pictures, and be able to look at how you can actually engage with your audience, whether it's polling, whether it's through your stories, maybe you even have somebody guest host. There's a lot of options out there. Now, YouTube. 1/3 of total time online is spent watching videos, and YouTube has over 1 billion active users. Let's talk a little bit about how to use YouTube. So treat it like a search engine for videos. The fact that Google actually owns YouTube means that it has great search capabilities. So always include your keywords in your video descriptions and your video tags, and tag it with your common keywords. You want to include actionable verbs in your call to action. When you get done with a video, tell viewers, do you want them to like, subscribe, follow, call, visit, buy? What is it that you want them to do? And you should also include links to your websites and your social media profiles in video descriptions so that your viewers can go there right from YouTube. You don't always need to try and go viral. You want to be able to build a solid audience over time with creative content, because organic, steady growth is always preferable to being a one-hit wonder. Like your other channels, determine your tone and style. Make sure that it's consistent throughout your content. And you want to be able to answer some basic questions like, how do you want to open and close your YouTube videos? What should your call to action be? What is the tone that you want to convey? Do you want to be hip and friendly, sleek and professional? Do you want to incorporate comedy into your videos? And also, do not mix consumer and corporate content. If you are a company that is B2B and B2C, you want to make sure that it's clear who you're actually talking to in this audience. If you have two separate audiences, create two separate channels. Otherwise, it's going to feel disjointed and awkward. These are some of the different video types that you can create with YouTube. You could do how-to videos, help customers use your product or perform tasks related to the service that you provide. You could upload Q&A videos with company leadership and staff using comments that your subscribers or social media followers provide. You can do unboxing videos to showcase new arrivals, give a tour of your corporate office, your warehouse facilities. Maybe you want to broadcast a company event or upload testimonials from customers. You could post commercials and video advertisements, or turn your blog content into YouTube videos. There is an infinite amount of possibilities out there. No big surprise, Facebook made our list because it has 2.2 billion daily active users. That's nearly 5 times the population of the United States, or 20% of the world's population. And it's not just the sheer number of people, but the amount of attention that Facebook owns. So globally, the average user spends almost an hour per day on Facebook. And considering that the average person sleeps 8 hours a night, that means about 7% of our waking hours are spent with our eyes glued to Facebook. This is why we should be looking at this for your business. Now, some tips in how to get into marketing for brand awareness on Facebook. You can have an insanely specific target audience. For example, I could target French and English speaking women between the ages of 31 and 56 within a 10-mile radius of Boston who are fit moms of grade school kids. There are so many different ways that you can hone in. So the key here is to get as specific an audience as you can that is relevant to your ideal buyer persona, but not make it so specific that you get too many people out of there. Now, Facebook users want to be entertained. They are on a social platform. So you want to keep things sweet, you want to keep it short, and you want to keep it visually engaging. This is where they actually go to want interaction. So you want to incorporate in polls and contests and make sure that you are involving them in this interaction. And another great tip is that you can actually upload a list of emails right into Facebook and then show your ads to that specific audience. This is through Facebook's custom audience features. Or you could clone your main revenue generating audience and they are going to find you a lookalike audience that you can now market to that has similar attributes. This is a really cool, somewhat invasive, still cool channel for you to be able to use, and I encourage you to dig in a little bit deeper. Next one up is Twitter. There are over 335 million average monthly Twitter users globally for you to share content with. And this is primarily for B2B or B2C and primarily millennials, although I would say that that has trended upwards in the last couple of years as well. Some of the great tips for utilizing Twitter are to find your brand voice, be fresh and original, convey your brand's message, and make sure that this is reflecting your core values. And make sure that it's resonating with them in a personal way. You don't want to set it and forget it. There are amazing tools to be able to schedule your posts. HubSpot owns a lot of them. We have some great scheduling tools that I'll show you later. However, you want to make sure that you are constantly on there because this is an interactive, engaging audience. People might be commenting on there. It might be good, it might be bad. You want to be on top of and ahead of it to make sure that there's not a conversation going on about your brand that you are not a part of. Or if something happens in the world, there's a major event, you don't want to seem tone deaf just pushing content out without reacting to things going on. So make sure that you are keeping your finger on the pulse. You want to make sure that you're engaging with your audience, retweet, be able to tap into some big trends on Twitter, and make sure that you're adaptable. Make a plan, a content calendar for what you're going to put out there, but don't be afraid to stray away from it when an opportunity presents itself. Maybe there's trending topics or world events, or just a great mention from somebody else. Feel free to mix it up. And make sure that it's two-sided. People don't want one-sided marketing campaigns. You want some replies, some organic tweets, some Twitter ads to be able to create some variety. Now, LinkedIn has over 645 million users across the globe, meaning that this platform is one of the top social networks today. There are a lot of ways to be able to get the most out of LinkedIn, and let's jump into it. First impressions are key. Make sure that your profile is up to date. Be posting content that your users want to read. This is not a channel where people want you to come across as salesy. This is a place to be able to establish thought leadership, to be able to share fresh ideas, and you want to make sure that your profile is as close to 100% complete as possible and that you're keeping it updated, because otherwise people are not going to be paying attention. They want to be able to learn more about your brand and the people that work there. And if your company sells a productivity tool for social media, let's say, your goal might be to raise awareness among LinkedIn members with job titles like social media manager or social media lead, especially if you're in the B2B industry, or that is the way that you're engaging your business model. This is a great source of getting really specific leads that are going to help you get ins. You want to optimize your page for search. Insert keywords here. Keywords are phrases that your potential customers might use to be able to find you. You want to link to your website from your page, and you want to share relevant content and often, so that way people are actually driven to go visit. All right, now going into a couple of newer channels. I don't know if we can still say that about Snapchat, but it is growing rapidly. This is primarily a younger audience. This is best for brand awareness, for advertising. And here's some tips around how to engage with Snapchat. Know your audience. Make sure that your content is going to resonate. This has typically been a younger audience, but it is starting to trend towards an older audience. And yeah, you know, once you create content on there, it's lost forever. However, this also ensures that users pay more attention to snaps when they receive them. Some of the different content that you could publish on Snapchat are things like product demos, tutorials, new product announcements, behind the scenes videos in your workplace, videos of maybe your product in action or industry tips, discounts or flash sales. You could do a series showcasing the history of your business or a takeover from an industry influencer. This is not the place for you to be a perfectionist. You don't need expensive production resources. If your videos don't feel raw, organic, off the cuff, maybe a little bit rickety, then you're probably doing Snapchat wrong. Also want to make sure that you reciprocate. We said it before, but great marketing is a conversation. Comment on your followers' snaps, create a dialogue. You could even create your own lens. Taco Bell paid Snapchat to host their own Snapchat lens for one day, which turned users' heads into a giant taco. The result? 224 million views in one day, which is 2.5 years worth of video play. Not bad for a day's work. Now, don't get lost in the wilderness here. There are no search functions, so it can be hard to build your following on Snapchat. So instead, you have to promote your presence on Snapchat via other search channels, whether that's Facebook, email, print media, you name it. And take advantage of some of the new business tools. They are expanding into a new advertising model where you're going to be able to see more videos in between stories, and then you can be able to promote content beyond your own followers. All right, last but not least, Clubhouse. Everybody's talking about it. It is still highly experimental. However, one major thing to note is that its users want to hear from people, not just brands. Because Clubhouse users, they crave authentic human discussion. They'll likely disengage from rooms that prioritize promotional content over a relatable conversation. And while you're building brand awareness on an ultra personal app like Clubhouse, your time, and it's going to require a lot of time, energy, and lots of community management. We're already starting to see brands connect with people and their growing channel audience. So when you're watching a panel or an interview affiliated with a brand, it's often formatted in one of two ways. So there's either a moderator who works for the brand that's coordinating the room. They ask thought leaders or influencers that are affiliated with your industry or brand interesting questions. They might let the audience speak or ask questions or come to the stage as well. Or it might be an employee or leader from the brand that serves as an interviewee or a panel member, while an influencer does the work for the brand and actually asks questions. But regardless of which role the brand manager holds, these rooms have very similar formats. The moderator announces who they are, who they'll be talking to, what the topic is in the room, and then they're going to ask questions of the speakers or give speaking privileges to other users. You can also sponsor room events. They might not, people may not want to join a room that discusses a product or a brand positively the entire time, but you can also When you are sponsored in a room, you might go into it and say, okay, when you're introduced into the room, it's going to say this, Clubhouse audio experience is paid for, sponsored by X brand, or you might see the sponsor listed in the room's title or description. Another way that you can grow your awareness is by having your chief officers, your leaders, or even general employees raise your hands and actively participate by speaking in rooms with large audiences. When you're speaking in these rooms, brand representatives don't necessarily need to talk all about their company, but they just want to be able to add to the conversation, talking about tactics that they've tried in their role and showing off their expertise. Audience members are going to learn to trust them and their company. As company members gain a following and fan base, your brand might also gain a new audience as well. All right, jumping on to actually scheduling your content. So we talked about what are the channels that we should be looking at? How do we actually craft a message? Now, how do we actually get it out into the world? First tip is create an editorial calendar. This is where you brainstorm topics and make sure that you're targeting the right leaders, that you're optimizing your posts, and that you have the best keywords and calls to action, because each one of these steps are necessary to be organized, to be focused, and ultimately to be successful. Sometimes you see these brands and you wonder, like, how do they have this endless supply of content? It's likely due to a well thought out editorial calendar, which is going to have you prepared for upcoming events, keep track of what worked, and have content planned in advance. This is an example of what this looks like within HubSpot. You are able to plan things, you can drag or drop to move from one day to the other, to be able to be adaptive, and you can post across all of your channels in one place and be able to track content and link each one of those engagements back to your CRM. So you can actually see how you are targeting this individual in multiple ways. This is an example of how you can schedule your posts in advance to be able to post across multiple mediums. You also want to make sure that you optimize the time to publish. So we can give you the times that we think that are going to be the most relevant for you to be able to get responses on your content, and make sure that you have them all scheduled in advance. Now, how do you actually promote the content that you have put out there? And how do you do that organically? These are some organic promotion strategies. Obviously, we talked about social media. You also jump into email marketing or paid promotion. Email marketing is something that you've probably dabbled in a little bit more, but you want to make sure that if you're engaged in an email marketing strategy, that you really have a defined audience and that you've segmented your contacts so that they are receiving messages that are relevant to you. You want to make sure that you have goals and metrics, that you know what you're actually driving towards, and create a way for your audience to be able to sign up from each one of these things. Don't send out emails or don't do anything without a call to action that is specific and actionable, that you know what you're trying to drive them to. And make sure that you are measuring your results. We're going to jump into a little bit more about how to approach that. But when you're creating content for your email marketing, you want to explore different format types. Maybe it's an ebook, a white paper, your infographic, a checklist, and make sure that it's easy to consume and that you are being able to treat this as a stepping stone to your paid product or service. Be able to give something free, something they're going to enjoy, but something that's going to segue into actually becoming a customer. Because brand awareness is great, it's necessary, but this is all stepping stones. Now, oops, I have ran through a little bit too fast here. Now, some other best practices around this, as I've said, be consistent with your brand voice, stick to one topic. You might have a lot of topics that you think are relevant, but don't cast a wide net. Be able to narrow in on what it is that people are looking for, and make sure that everything is optimized for mobile, that it is eye-catching, that it's relevant. And another great tip, weird one, but Tuesdays at 11 a.m. Eastern time is the best day and time to send your email. Schedule your newsletters, whatever you have to go out then. Make sure that it is personalized, that you have a familiar tone, and make sure that you have a great subject line. There's so much out there. Google HubSpot subject lines, and you're going to get all kinds of guidance to make sure that people actually click. There are a host of tools out there, but With HubSpot, you can use email marketing to be able to create your newsletter and send valuable content to your audience, to be able to build trust and also reinforce your brand awareness. This is made for marketers, but also for lay people, because some of us are wearing multiple hats as the marketer, the salesperson, the janitor, everything all in one. This is really easy to pick up and be able to use and edit and make it look really professional. Now, jumping into a little bit about social media ads and how to approach this. Make sure that you have a specific campaign objective and choose the best platforms for this. You saw my last slides around who you can target on each one of these platforms. Make sure it's not just your favorite platform, but it's where your users live. Target them by their location, demographic factors. The narrow your audience, the better, although don't narrow it too much. These are some of the basic elements of a social media ad, just so that you know, so we're all speaking the same language. You can see this is the ad copy, the creative, the headline, the call to action are otherwise known as CTA, is down here at the bottom. And there are two kind of essential definitions that you should be aware of when you start to engage in this. So there is CPM, which is the cost per milla, or 1,000 impressions. And what that means is that a $2 CPM means that you have to pay $2 for every 1,000 impressions that your ad receives. This is in contrast to the cost per click. The cost per click, CPC, is that if your campaign generated 1,000 clicks at $2 per click, then you would pay $2,000. Cost per milla is the best use for driving awareness and brand engagement. It's a way to go when you're trying to build brand visibility. Cost per click is when you are looking for conversions. This is a little overview of how do you choose the right platform? How do you think about your budget? How do you think about your target? And how do you think about the different ad types that you might want to do on each one of these channels? I am not going to read this all aloud to you, but I'm sure that you guys can also see the recording afterwards. This will give you a little bit more information on how targeted you can get and how far your budget's going to go. What I will say, and I always say when it comes to ads, is that ads are a great way to drive traffic to your site. I also do a lot on SEO, so feel free to check out my LinkedIn for more information there. But ad strategy is like icing on the cake of SEO. You need to have a good SEO strategy in general to be able to drive viewers to your site. And ads are going to add on to it, but they're not going to supplement a good SEO strategy. So if that isn't something that you have delved into yet, also Vancouver Startup Week should have a recording of our SEO session from last year, so check that out. All right, wrapping up and going into the final section here. How do you measure your impact and figure out if you actually did what you wanted to do? These are some of the quantitative measures. You can track your traffic, your engagement, or the number of conversions to your site. When it comes to traffic, there's a couple different types of traffic that you should be thinking about. Whether it's direct traffic, which is the result of people actually going in and typing in your URL and visiting your website, or your overall site traffic numbers, meaning from whatever source they came, how many people are coming to your site. Impressions, which is the number of times a post, an ad, or content from your profile is seen, whether or not your audience members click on it. And then reach is the number of people who have seen any content associated with your page or profile. This is a unique number of viewers. Now within HubSpot, we have a whole host of reporting that's already set up for you. And you're able to see your overall site traffic and be able to segment that by how much actually came from your social media, from your paid search, from your paid social. You are an entrepreneur. You don't have the luxury of having a spray and pray method to being able to generate brand awareness. You need to know what's actually working for you. And when I was a founder and I opened up my social media channels, I had 2,500 users in 24 hours. I was psyched. However, I had no idea if any of them were going to actually convert to paying customers, if these are people that were actually my demographic, even in my geo, to make sure that they were going to actually be able to purchase if they were interested. This is one of the beauties in having this type of data linked to your CRM, because you're not only able to see what is the traffic and is my my paid acquisition working, but you can actually click into each one of these and see, okay, from actually being on, from the paid search, how many actually went on to become contacts and customers. And you can click on that customer group and see exactly who they are. So you can figure out what are the demographics that matter to me, how do I want to duplicate this, and use this to refine your buyer persona. Again, I've talked a little bit about SEO, but you want to be tracking traffic to your site as well as engagement. There are many different ways that you can have a successful campaign. What is your goal? Is it a number of views? Is it a number of mentions? Is it a number of comments? Within HubSpot, you're also able to track how your posts are growing, whether it is your audience growth, your clicks, your interactions. But again, this comes down to what is the specific goal that you have with this campaign. Also on the data piece, because we talked about email marketing, you want to have statistics, be able to know, is your strategy working? You can see how many you sent, the open rate, click-through rate. But the point is, if I have a low open rate, then I know I need to fix my subject line or the first couple sentences in that email to make sure that it is tailored to my audience. But maybe I have a high open rate and a really low click-through rate. That means that my offer wasn't compelling enough, and I know what I need to fix. So focus your time in on the things that are going to get you the most value. Other ways that you can manage your success are to focus on conversions. Are you looking for a number of new followers or subscribers on social media, new blog subscribers, maybe your newsletter subscribers, or more qualitative measures like, is Google, go into Google search and you can set up Google alerts so you can know whenever somebody's talking about your brand. And this is part of social listening. This is just monitoring your brand's social media channels for any customer feedback and direct mentions of your brand, or discussions that are regarding specific keywords or topics, competitors, or industries, followed by analysis to be able to gain insights and act on those opportunities. Now I'm going to click out and show you a couple other things that are relevant to you before we jump into a few questions. But again, I would encourage you to go to HubSpot.com/startups. This is where you can get started on using HubSpot for yourself at up to 90% off. That's on average about 20K in credits. We also have another 20 or so affiliated partners that give reciprocal discounts. What this means is you sign on as a HubSpot customer and you can get 5,000 in AWS credits or Stripe or Carta or Airtable. There's a ton of other offers that are on here that you can utilize. The base level of software is free. There's a ton in the free tools. We have some great sessions also coming up later today on how you can use the free tools to be able to supercharge your fundraising outreach, to be able to help you generate more funding, more investors for your company. We're also doing a session later today on overcoming your fear of sales. So make sure that you log in for both of them. Again, we talked a little bit about what the tools look like. This is showing you a little bit about what the ad campaign tools look like. So you can actually, because everything is integrated, whereas normally you can count your marketing by impressions, etc. When you have your marketing and your sales tools tied together, you're able to see from this marketing campaign that I did, how many customers did I get out of it? What was the value of those deals? So I can see, was the amount spent actually worth it? Did I get a return on investment? Again, lean into what's working and away from what isn't. Lastly, we have a wonderful opportunity for you to jump in and learn a little bit more. If you're not sure if this is for you or not, you need to maybe ask some questions, talk through some strategy. You can go to our product demo page here, where you can see a couple quick minute overviews around the product, whether it's 2 minutes on the CRM or sales or marketing. But then we also have office hours every week. So you can meet with myself or one of my colleagues and be able to jump on and ask questions and get some additional help. All right, that was a whirlwind. I hope that that was helpful for you. I hope that this gives you the tools that you need to continue to grow and expand your business. I am VSW rooting you on. I'm going to open it up now for any questions you have. So drop them in the Q&A and let's get started.
As Kelsey had mentioned, drop your questions in the Q&A, drop your feedback in the chat. There was so much information that you just shared in such a short period of time. So I'm sure everyone's letting it sink in. As you heard me ask Emily before, Kelsey, one big takeaway. What is that first next step from everything you shared that you want to ensure our audience does?
Great question, as always. I think the biggest takeaway is, I mean, social media is not, this isn't something to ignore with your business. It's important, it's growing importance, but always have a goal when you're engaging with social media. Know what you're actually driving towards and what success looks like for you, and make sure you're measuring your progress so you know whether or not this is really working, so you can be really, strategic about where you spend your time.
Wonderful. And Kelly, I saw your comment in the chat. As we had mentioned, recordings from the session will be available after the conference, as long as our partners are okay with it. Absolutely. So much information, so much to learn and take away. Thank you so much, Kelsey, for taking us through that. Kelly, I echo your comment as well. Phew. Can't wait to slowly, step by step, follow your instructions and things to keep in mind. With that, I want to say thank you so much for taking your time today, Kelly, to take us through that. Thank you to HubSpot for Startups for all of your support and for such a great session today.